So, this is the big one, Block Blasters, an official Steam game that downloads malware disguised as a patch. Not just any malware, of course, Stealer malware that got a lot of money, apparently $150,000 stolen from victims from their crypto wallets, using, of course, a typical Stealer mechanism. So, it also compromised the users, and I'm assuming got a lot of accounts hacked as well. We're going to take a look at the malware in a minute, but I've been warning about this for a long time, and we've had a couple minor instances in the past of malware being distributed via Steam games, and some people called me out for being sensational when I made those videos. Well, now there have been very real consequences for this kind of malware. Now, what happened in one of these cases is very interesting. An active streamer who was a cancer patient raising donations was sent a link while he was streaming. So somebody in the chat, like your Twitch chat, sends you a link to a Steam game and says, hey, try this out on stream. You go, you download the game, and the malware comes on your computer. It steals your donations, everything from your wallet, and boom, that's $30,000 gone in a minute. That sparked something interesting in this case. So VX Underground, hearing this story, were able to track down the actual attackers because they were using Telegram. The malware was using a Telegram C2, or as a communication or command and control, to get the data from the malware. So if you reverse engineer the malware, you figure out the credentials for the Telegram chat, because that's what the malware is posting the stolen data to. And then in the Telegram chat, you have more information about the attackers. And that's how they managed to get the infrastructure behind the hackers and even expose them. Turns out the malware authors, the hackers, threw a party after the successful stealing of over $30,000. Now, with recent arrests via Europol and FBI, I'm optimistic that maybe we can bring them to justice. But if we take a look at the malware itself, it has two components. So this is the main Stealer malware, and if we take a look at the behavior, you can see that it's your typical info stealer, communicates via these PHP websites, sends post requests. If you look at the graph, it drops a lot of files, including a lot of database files, and it contacts some malicious URLs. But another interesting component of this malware is a bat file right here. This one's only got 7 detections, and this is the one that actually kind of launches the process. Interestingly, none of these detections are of the usual red line. We've got a new name here called Stim Blaster. And again, the important thing to note here, an info stealer is pretty easy to set up in the modern environment. All you need is a Discord or Telegram webhook, and then you just need some simple code to connect to that and basically steal the data, send it over to a Discord chat or a Telegram chat, like in this case. You don't even have to have a lot of infrastructure. You can just use other tools, and you can make some money, steal some money, and then disappear into the ether. That's what a lot of people are doing, and I think people underestimate the impact of this. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars that are stolen from victims. And like I said, they don't have to necessarily be the top game on Steam. They can simply post it in a stream chat and say, hey, here's a cool game, try it. And then somebody goes and downloads it, and there goes all your savings. The same thing can happen in a Discord chat or any group that you're in. Maybe you're in a group with friends, you're on a Discord server, and then somebody's like, hey, let's try this new game. And it could even be a friend. They could have a hacked account of a friend. I just made a video last week about how one of my friends, someone who is a mod on the TPSC Discord, managed to get their Steam account hacked and were sending me malicious invites. If it can happen to somebody that experienced, I'm sure it can happen to your friends. And so be very careful if somebody sends you a link to a game, even if it's on an official platform like Steam, and be very wary when you're chatting online to make sure that even if it's your friend's account, it's not been hacked, because it's very common for these kind of attacks to take advantage of a hacked account and then try to send messages to all their friends. And they just need a few people to fall for it, and they can make a killing. Now, to go through some of the features of Game2.bat, the actual malware stealer, it does do a search for detected antivirus products. So it does try to find what's installed on the system, probably has some mechanism to try to disable it, uploads the data to this C2 server. And again, the benefit of using a bat file or some kind of simple automator, and we're seeing this a lot with modern malware, is to hide the actual malware payload. So they try to use some kind of simple automation script as the initial activation payload, and then that goes and downloads the malware, which is a password protected archive. And that means, again, it cannot be scanned by an antivirus. If it's password protected, it can be uploaded anywhere. It could literally be a Google Drive link and it's going to go through because no one can scan a password protected archive. Now, this one specifically does a check if you have only Windows Defender and not any other antivirus, because I'm guessing if it's Windows Defender, they have a very easy script to disable it or delete the antivirus signatures. That way the malware goes through very easily. Stage 2 is using VBS script. So again, these are multi-stage payloads. You don't have one simple malware component. You have a bat file, you have a VBS, and then eventually it executes the main payload. And as you can see, there are a lot of arguments here for automation in order to unzip this password protected archive and then start it as a process. And now we get to the StealC payload. It looks at your Google Chrome, Brave, and Microsoft Edge data, steals your cookies, typical stuff, tries to get any kind of login data that you have so it can hack your accounts and spread itself. And based on the analytics, over 100 people downloaded this game since this malicious patch was deployed. So if you're one of those, make sure you go and reset your passwords, see what data might be compromised. Now, the game was up for a long time. Even while I was looking at these tweets, it was up, but it did get taken down in the meantime as I'm recording this video. But let this be a warning. Do not underestimate the ease of getting malware on other platforms. These platforms are huge. There is no human verification for 99% of stuff, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Steam. So just because something looks like it's on an official source, don't just assume that it's going to be safe. We've had malware in almost every major platform in the last few years. And we just had a major compromise of the NPM package system as well in one of the largest supply chain attacks. It's all fun and games until you have $30,000 stolen from your bank account or your crypto wallet. So I hope this video helps inform you. And what's important to understand as well is if you do a search for Discord or Steam on the dark web and we try to look for Stealer logs, you're going to find a gazillion entries of infected devices that have been listed. What this means is the credentials for those computers that have been infected by a malware like this have ended up in a log file, and now that's being sold on the dark web or distributed on the dark web, which is a typical thing that attackers who use InfoStealers do. They take this data and then they share it with their gang or they sell it to others. And then that machine becomes a target for hacking. So if somebody wants to take control of those accounts, they can, or they can try to snoop around, see if they can run a new malware operation. So a lot of how these malware operations propagate is they start with some data from a Stealer log or a bunch of them that they find on the dark web, and they use it as a platform to launch their attack. So they get a bunch of hacked accounts, message all their friends with this new malware, and then try to get their money as well. Now, I want to thank Flare for giving us access to their platform as usual. Flare is a platform that allows you to explore the dark web, illicit networks, market and forum posts, ransom leaks, and infected devices and device logs. As you can see, we've got potential Stealer logs selected as one of the emerging sources that we're looking at. The idea is to monitor your own personal information and see if that has been exposed in any of these leaks. If you're a company, it's a great way to know if one of your systems or employees has any of their data compromised before it gets used against you to infiltrate your organization. Because these days, let's be honest, that is how a lot of attacks happen. It's all about getting that initial access. It's usually not something highly technical. It's about getting the credentials to get into one of the systems. And monitoring the dark web is one way to kind of prevent that or get forward knowledge of that. So do check out Flare using link in description. As you can see, they give you a dashboard. So if something happens, you get notified immediately. There will be a link in the description. Check them out, show them some love. And of course, thank you all so much for watching till the end. Like and share this video if you found it helpful, informative. Hopefully, we don't have more malware on Steam. If there is, well, you'll hear about it here. This is Leo, and as always, stay informed, stay secure.